Every day, hundreds of vehicles, private, transport, and military usage have been produced for our convenience. We are well aware that every year, there are new improvements to technology. These vehicles are either upgraded or disposed of. For this video, we have gathered the best unique and massive graveyards for vehicles that were either forgotten or were just abandoned. Let's take a look back in time as we make a tour around the world for this automotive resting place. This is Bench Lady and I'll be bringing you the top 8 graveyards for old vehicles. Number 8. Bicycle Graveyard. More than 100 million bicycles are produced each year worldwide. It is a very famous and in-demand vehicle for transport. The fact that it does not use oil and promote exercise makes it even more appealing. The world is at war in resources. An example is oil. The Russia-Saudi Arabia oil price war of 2020 was an economic war triggered on March 2020 by Saudi Arabia in response to Russia's refusal to reduce oil production in order to keep prices for oil at moderate level. The result is a drop of oil prices. Riding a bicycle does not cause pollution, plus it has fewer road casualties. In China, they have launched the bicycle sharing system for people to travel without even buying their own bike. It is a service in which bicycles are made available for shared use to individuals on a short-term basis for a price or free. Many bike share systems allow people to borrow a bike from a dock and return it at another dock belonging to the same system. Docks are special bike racks that locks the bike and can only be released by computer control. The user enters payment information and the computer unlocks a bike. The user returns the bike by placing it on the dock, which locks it in place. It's like a bike rental but modern version. In Beijing, China, piles and piles of damaged bikes have been placed either for repair or dismantling. Too many of these bike sharing services have launched at the same time, resulting in overproduction of the said bikes. Mobike, Ofo, Blue Go-Go were the few that went bankrupt in the late 2017. Bike graveyards were made in an urban village in Hanzhou, Zhejiang Province, China for the sole purpose of collecting damaged bikes. Another cemetery of shared bicycles at a vacant lot in Xiamen, Fujian Province, China. This cemetery continued to grow as more and more of the bike sharing company goes bankrupt. A bicycle graveyard in a vacant lot in Wuhan, Hubei, China. Bikes can be dropped off anywhere. Riders sometimes leave them in front yards, parks, shops, and other inconvenient places. A pile of bikes some 10 feet high in Zhenjiang Plaza. The bike graveyards now serve as a reminder of an industry that grew too quickly. Number 7. Motorcycle Graveyard. Since 1885 in Germany, motorbike had improved a lot. In the early period of motorcycle history, many producers of bicycles adapted their designs to accommodate the new internal combustion engine. As the engine became more powerful and designs outgrew the bicycle origins, the number of motorcycle producers increased. Many of the 19th century inventors who worked on early motorcycles often moved on to other inventions, though the number of fatalities per vehicle mile traveled was 37 times higher for motorcycles than for cars, due to low prices compared to automobile and convenient and parking space. Many countries, especially Asia, patronized the motorcycle industry. During the First World War, motorbike production was greatly ramped up for the war effort to supply effective communication with frontline troops. Messengers on horses were replaced with dispatch riders on motorcycles, carrying messages, performing reconnaissance, and acting as military police. As we improved the motorbike, new design emerged. This graveyard or Japanese motorcycle is up for sale. An estimated 100 machines lies here to decay in time. There's Suzuki ATC70, Suzuki GXS 1100S Katanas, even Suzuki's classic 2-stroke roadster, the GT550. Majority of bikes easily in view are Suzuki's. You can also see some Honda road bikes and early sports bikes, Yamaha YZ and YT dirt trial bikes. While it's easy to dream of getting all the bikes back in the road, making each road worthy would be a time-consuming and costly exercise. We also have a building graveyard. These motorcycles were stored in a building. The motorcycles were collected by a motorcycle enthusiast named Cole. He owned several different motorcycle shops over 50 years. Cole would take trades in for motorcycles and would also buy inventory of defunct dealership. Back then, starting a dealer was relatively easier compared today. In 1997, Cole sold the building and motorcycles to Frank. He operated the business Cole's Cycle Salvage, which sold parts of the hundreds of motorcycles he had. In 2002, Cole died at 80 years of age. The building began to fall apart and crumbled around itself. As the building continued to fall apart and the city condemning the building, Frank didn't see a reason to continue to pay back the taxes. Number 6. Car Graveyard. Old Car City in White, Georgia contains the world's largest known classic car junkyard. Old Car City started as a small general store in 1931 and is still family-owned and operated. With over 34 acres and over 4,000 American-made cars from the early 20th century, there are cars, trucks, vans, and even a couple school buses. It is a place where machine and nature intertwine, producing beautiful pieces of art preserved over time. China's car graveyard in Hangzhou with over 100,000 vehicles. These vehicles have piled up after being taken off the road because they did not meet the national emission standard. In an attempt to slow down car sales, Chinese authorities have cut the number of new vehicles that can be registered on the roads. Last year, the number of new registration plates available in Beijing fell from 240,000 to just 150,000. Beside the cars, we also have scooters, as China is also a leading producer in scooter industry. The yellow taxi graveyard in Chongqing, China is nothing but amazing. Car graveyards never fails to amaze me. Personal vehicles became more and more accessible to the Chinese middle class, and the yellow taxis eventually became obsolete. The government had to put them somewhere, so they created this yellow taxi graveyard. The Kyushu Cemetery in Japan is a sports car graveyard. Acres of land covered in cars of varying states. Some do not even have dust, let alone rust, while others are rotting into the ground. Landowner Watanabe-san opened Rocky Auto Shop in 1999, where his garage did nothing and everything involving muscle cars and custom work, and continues his endeavor today. Located in Sharjah, the supercar graveyard houses vehicles abandoned by their owners who are believed to be high-flying businessmen that hit financial ruin and then fled the country to dodge UAE's strict debt laws. Ferrari, Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Lamborghini, Range Rover, Mercedes, BMW, Audi, Mustang, any car you want, you'll get it in this awesome scrapyard. More and more automobiles are made each year, having new features and modern designs. So the rest of the automobile that could not keep up are either scrapped, wrecked, or upgraded. These are just the popular area for car cemetery, and more are available worldwide. Imagine the trash we'll be facing in a few years or more. Number 5. Train Graveyard. The Bari Scrapyard. It is popular globally for its 1960s activity as a scrapyard where 297 withdrawn British Railways steam locomotives. It is run by Woodham Brothers, which is a trading business, based mainly around activities and premises located within Barry Docks in Barry, South Wales. More than 80% of the locomotives running in the UK can be traced to Woodham's. The site was a beauty to behold for steam enthusiasts. There's no other place like Barry's. Bolivia Train Graveyard. Uyuni, Bolivia has its very own cemetery for trains. Steel giants destroyed by salt winds can be seen on the outskirts of a desert trading village high on the Andean plain. Uyuni has long been known as an important transport hub in South America, and it connects several major cities. In the early 19th century, big plans were made to build an even bigger network of trains out of Uyuni, but the project was abandoned because of a combination of technical difficulties and tension with neighboring countries. The trains and other equipment were left to rust and fade out of memory. The train of today is fascinating, but the trains of the past, when restored to operations, is phenomenal. The great locomotive of the forgotten past lies in this cemetery for the future enthusiasts to enjoy. Number 4. Tank Graveyard. No one wins in war. Everybody is a victim to some extent. The brutal years have passed for these tanks and is now quietly retired in this graveyard. Ukraine. Hundreds of Russia's armored vehicles are found rusting away in an abandoned secret Ukrainian depot. There are more than 400 abandoned tanks at the plant in secret, heavily guarded depot in the town of Kharkiv, filled with rows upon rows of slowly rusting relics. The once deadly war machines now lies dormant in a secret depot in the city of Kharkiv in the eastern region of Ukraine, just 20 miles from the border with Russia. There are also dozens of old tank engines and other bits of machinery sit rotting on the factory floor. The Kharkiv plant repaired more than 60 tanks and 55 engines per month during its prime time in the 1960s and 70s. Following the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991, however, many of the tanks on the site were left to rot as the newly independent Ukraine didn't have the money or desire to fix or modernize old machines. Then we have the USSR Red Army Tanks Graveyard. When Russia left Afghanistan after the war, a lot of their equipment was left behind. The site was a wonder. Each tank has a story to tell, stories of both cruelty and bravery. For in war, there is always two sides of the coin, both sides fighting for their country. Since everybody is unique, therefore no one person thinks the same. It's only a matter of point of view. This graveyard in Siberia is equally mesmerizing. Never seen so many tanks in one place. Imagine all these tanks charging the enemy in a perfect line, and you standing on between. What a nightmare. What would happen if one would do a mob prank tank version? That would be terrifyingly amazing. Massive armor inventory in Lenta. The Italian army has started to decommission and dispose of a large part of their surplus armor inventory. Many of these vehicles are stored in the rice field near Lenta, an area which contains more than 3,000 tanks and APCs. Italy has the largest concentration of non-operating tanks in the world. Number 3. Naval Ship Graveyard. These graveyards were formed as a result of the deliberate disposal of the vessels, natural calamities, and wars, among others. Naval Inactive Ship Maintenance Facility is a facility owned by United States Navy as a holding facility for decommissioned naval vessels. All ships in these facilities are inactive. These vessels are for foreign military sale transfer, ship donation as a museum or memorial, domestic dismantling and recycling, artificial reefing, or use as target vessel. The Navy has been reducing the numbers of inactive ships, which numbered as many as 195 in 1997, but was down to 49 by the end of 2014. Lies here are the retired aircraft carriers and other Navy ships that had served its purpose and are now at their final resting place. Scapa Flow, believed to be the largest ship graveyard in Europe, divers and explorers alike came to appreciate the history of the sunken Navy ships. Scapa Flow is a natural bay, sheltered from the wind, located in the Orkney Islands, north of Scotland. This shelter was once used as a naval base for the Royal Navy during both World Wars. There were a fleet of 74 ships of the German Imperial Fleet arrived at Scapa Flow, accompanied by over 250 battleships that came in the area during the war. In June 1919, the fall of the German fleet was slowly felt by the German military. To avoid giving the fleet to the enemy, Vice Admiral Ludwig von Reuter decided to scuttle the fleet. Almost all of the 74 German ships were sunk within hours. 32 boats were bailed out of the company cocks and dunks since the wreckage posed an immediate threat to navigation. Another company takes over in 1936 and many other boats will be out of the water. However, 7 vessels between 150 and 180 meters in length stayed lying down at a great depth. Chunk Lagoon. Chunk Lagoon, also known as Trunk Lagoon, is one of the largest ship graveyards under the water, a sheltered body of water in the Central Pacific. As a result of an alien attack on Japan's naval base in the South Pacific during World War II, Chunk Lagoon has over 60 warships on the sea floor. Cruise Ship Graveyard. These huge, incredible ships retired with grace in Turkey. Cruise fleets around the world are being offloaded and sent to Turkey. 98% of the ships can be turned into scrap metal. The rest, including light fittings and life jackets, is sold sold off. Each one will take about 8 months to demolish, so they make way for the next hulking liner that once were sold to the public as the perfect place to fulfill a holiday dream. Ships around the world were forced into hibernation earlier this year, battled by the economic shutdown that accompanied the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic and a series of coronavirus outbreaks that hurt the industry's reputation for safety. Alang Shipbreaking Yard, the world's largest graveyard with respect to shipbreaking in the Indian subcontinent. Alang in Gujarat, India, oversees ship dismantling for almost 50% of the world's vessels. Located in the Gulf of Cambat, over 100 yards along the beach, Alang dismantles vessels in different types and sizes, including car ferries, ocean liners, container ships, and large supertankers, among others. According to reports, over 6,900 vessels have been dismantled in this yard during the last 3 decades. The shipbreaking yards in India have a capacity to break at least 450 ships annually and dismantled a record of 415 ships in 2011 to 2012. On the other hand, as a storage facility for a variety of toxic waste, these yards have polluted the beach and destroyed the marine life in the area. Number 2. Military Aircraft Graveyard. Arizona Boneyard, or the 309 Aerospace Maintenance and Regeneration Group, is a United States Air Force aircraft and missile storage and maintenance facility in Tucson, Arizona. It takes care of nearly 4,000 aircraft, which makes it the largest aircraft storage and preservation facility in the world. It was originally meant to store excess Department of Defense and Coast Guard aircraft, but has in recent years been designed the sole repository of out-of-service aircraft from all branches of the U.S. government. The arid climate of the region makes the Boneyard an ideal location for storing aircraft, as there is very little humidity in the air that would corrode metal. Manas International Airport. When Kyrgyzstan gained independence from the Soviet Union in 1991, Manas International Airport in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan began a decline, and about 60 abandoned Soviet aircraft, including helicopters to full-size airliners, were left on the airport ramp at the eastern end of the field. Chernobyl Graveyard. Contaminated vehicles from the Chernobyl nuclear plant disaster at Rosorvo. 20 years after the nuclear accident at Chernobyl, many of the contaminated vehicles used in the cleanup operation remain in graveyards in the vast exclusion zone around the reactor. For 20 years, these vehicles have sat dormant, the largest graveyard being at Rasoka, 25 kilometers southwest of the power plant. The fire engines that went to the power station on the night of the explosion have long since been buried in huge trenches, but others can still be found rotting into the ground. Saskatoon John G. Diefenbaker International Airport in Canada. 23 former Air Canada Jazz and Canadian Regional Airlines Fokker F-28 aircraft have been stored in the airport, Saskatchewan, since retired from the fleet in 2003. Number 1. Submarine Graveyard. Vast number of Japanese Navy submarines assets were being scraped or stored. These submarines are casualties of war. They are now retired from service and are waiting for time to erode them. There are at least 4 different types of midget submarines in this group of about 84 boats. Most of them lies here. A number of submarines can be seen at the partial flooded dry dock at Kur Naval Base. The area around Nazametnaya Cove, close to the town of Gadshievu in Murmansk Oblast in the Kola Peninsula, is a cemetery where many a Russian submarine has gone to die. The location is high up in Russia's northwest, not far from the Finnish border, a place where strong winds blow for a good part of the year. It's said that some of the old submarines were used for target practice in military exercises and often sunk. Others were simply left in the bay to rust and rot, floating to the surface like so many whale carcasses. As dreary as the images of the Soviet submarine graveyard in Russia's Olenia Bay might seem, they are also strongly fascinating. After all, when you get the chance to look at the cross-section of submarine. As we welcome each coming year, more and more advancement and technology awaits. More vehicles will be obsolete and more trash will build up. I hope in the future we get to reuse and reduce these trash. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and don't hesitate to comment your suggestions below. This is Bench Lady and I'll be seeing you in our next Top 8 rank review.